On December 4th, in Hong Kong, a decomposing body was found in a kneeling position inside a wardrobe. The victim was a beautiful flight attendant from Cathay Dragon. The strange thing is that the family members living with the girl did not smell any foul odor for the past 4 days. The murder case of the flight attendant in the wardrobe shocked Hong Kong for a long time with its intricate details. The mysterious death of the beautiful flight attendant sparked many rumors. From there, her true life was exposed, helping the police track down the perpetrator. Although they identified the suspect's identity, it took 3 years for the police to arrest him. Let's explore the truth behind Hong Kong's most horrific murder case with the mysterious details still behind. But first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive notifications whenever there is a new video. The setting of this story takes place in Hong Kong, China. On December 4th, 2013, in a private apartment in Tsuen Wan Garden, Hong Kong, Chen Mani, a young and beautiful woman, was meticulously organizing her luggage in preparation for an upcoming business trip. In the quiet atmosphere of the room, the doorbell suddenly rang loudly, shattering the peace of the space. At first, she thought it was a family member returning home, so without any caution, she hurriedly went to the door, with a slight annoyance in her heart. "Why didn't you bring the key this time?" Chen Mani opened the door while frowning slightly, not immediately noticing anything unusual. However, as soon as the door opened, the image of the person standing before her stunned Chen Mani. Her eyes immediately changed, pupils dilated, and her face showed fear. The person standing at the door was not the family member she expected, but an uninvited guest. Although she did not want to, she had to reluctantly invite the stranger into her home. The atmosphere in the room became tense and suffocating. The two faced each other, not exchanging many words, but the tension between them seemed to slice through the air. After only a short time, the guest left the apartment, carrying coldness and mystery with him. Chen Mani also disappeared mysteriously thereafter. Her family had no doubts, still believing that she had gone to work at the airline as planned, so no one was worried. 4 days later, on December 8th, Chen Mani's younger sister, Chen Manjin, went to the apartment to check the room and discovered the most horrifying thing in her life. While opening the wardrobe, she was shocked to find Chen Mani's corpse lying inside, already beginning to decompose. Why was Chen Mani murdered? Who was the guest whose face changed the last time he met the beautiful flight attendant? Chen Mani was born into a humble family in Hong Kong, where her family had only a small, cramped apartment and not much living condition. She was the eldest daughter among 3 sisters, bearing the responsibility of caring for and protecting her younger siblings since they were very young. Chen Mani's parents were ordinary workers, doing manual labor jobs with low wages, just enough to cover their daily lives. After many years of diligently saving every small wage, they finally had enough money to buy a small house in Tsuen Wan Garden, a densely populated residential area. This was an important milestone for their family, as it was the first time they had a stable place to live and no longer had to worry about renting or moving. The house, though not very spacious, was the result of many years of hard work, a pride that the parents always wanted to bestow upon their children. As the eldest daughter in the family, Chen Mani had been aware of her responsibilities since childhood. She always strives to fulfill her role as the eldest sister, not only helping her parents with household chores, but also taking care of her 2 younger sisters when their parents have to work all day. Despite the many difficulties in life, Chen Mani never complains. On the contrary, she is always diligent, patient, and eager to learn. Neighbors often praise Chen Mani as a well-behaved, polite girl who always knows how to conduct herself properly. Determined not to disappoint her parents, since she was still in school, Chen Mani set a goal for herself to enter a prestigious university. Years of diligent study, along with relentless effort, helped her achieve remarkable academic accomplishments. Possessing a tall, beautiful appearance with a graceful face and a charming smile, she always attracts others' attention. Many people even advised her to pursue a career as a flight attendant, a job considered prestigious and high-paying in Hong Kong. They believed that with her outstanding looks and excellent communication skills, Chen Mani would have a bright future in this industry. In response to everyone's praise, Chen Mani did not become arrogant. Instead, she worked even harder. Hong Kong is a place where every inch of land is precious. where everyone must race to survive. Chen Mani understands this better than anyone. She tells herself to work even harder, striving each day to build a bright future for herself and her family. After graduating high school with excellent grades, she passed the difficult entrance exams and was officially admitted to the University of Hong Kong. This was the first step for her to nurture her grand dream of becoming a flight attendant, a job not only highly regarded but also greatly admired in Hong Kong. At that time, being a flight attendant was a dream for many, not only because of the attractive salaries, but also due to the prestige and the opportunity to travel around the world. Compared to other workers who have to spend many years to get a raise, flight attendants seem to have a stable income. With her pleasing appearance and confident demeanor, Chen Mani was officially hired by Cathay Dragon, one of Hong Kong's leading airlines. In her work, Chen Mani always appeared professional and friendly to everyone. She was loved by her colleagues for her approachable personality and high responsibility. Chen Mani always adhered to all regulations, performed her duties well on flights, and almost never received complaints from passengers. Upon receiving her first salary, the joy within Chen Mani overflowed. She did not hesitate to organize a lavish party to treat her family. More than half of her salary was sent to her parents to help them make ends meet, showing her filial piety. Chen Mani is a girl who deeply loves her family. She lives harmoniously and maintains very good relationships with everyone in the household. No one could have imagined that a vibrant girl, at the peak of her youth, could become a victim of a mysterious murder. The first person to discover the body on December 8th was her younger sister, Chen Manjin. Overwhelmed with fear, Chen Manjin immediately called the police. After the police arrived at the scene, they immediately conducted a thorough autopsy of Chen Mani. On the victim's body, there were no obvious wounds, nor any signs of a violent altercation or fierce resistance. However, the only distinct trace easily noticeable was a deep mark on the neck, indicating that the victim had been strangled. The time of death of Chen Mani was determined by forensic experts to be December 4th, meaning she had died approximately 4 days before her body was discovered. The victim's family also provided important information, stating that on that day, no one was at home except Chen Mani. Her parents and 2 younger sisters had all gone out to work. Chen Mani had a flight on that day and was preparing her belongings at home when her sister Chen Manjin left the house. This detail was further corroborated when Chen Mani was found in the flight attendant uniform she had prepared for the flight. When investigating the scene, the police noted that there were no signs of struggle between the victim and the perpetrator. The doors and windows of the house showed no signs of being damaged or forced in from the outside. This further clarified that the victim might have voluntarily opened the door for the murderer to enter the house. Additionally, only Chen Mani's mobile phone and bank card were missing. No other valuable items were taken. This ruled out the possibility of a regular theft, and the police began to suspect that the culprit might be someone Chen Mani knew. According to the information gathered, on the day of the incident, Chen Mani likely voluntarily opened the door for the perpetrator. The two may have had an argument or some disagreement, leading the perpetrator to act out in anger. After committing the crime, the perpetrator hid the victim in the wardrobe in the private bedroom. Due to the cold weather in Hong Kong in December, the wardrobe still had ice packs, so Chen Mani's family did not detect any foul odor. The building where Chen Mani's family lived was equipped with surveillance cameras. The police quickly contacted the condominium management to retrieve the footage. They meticulously analyzed the footage of people entering and leaving the building at the time of Chen Mani's murder. To identify and recognize individuals who might know the victim, the police called Chen Manjin to review and analyze the recorded footage. The footage captured by the surveillance camera was chaotic and difficult to follow, leading the police and Chen Manjin to spend hours watching without discovering any significant clues. The atmosphere in the surveillance room grew tense, with exhaustion evident on everyone's faces. Just when everyone seemed on the verge of giving up, Chen Manjin's eyes suddenly lit up. She jumped up and said urgently, "Wait, can you rewind that part? I think I just saw someone familiar." The police immediately refocused, rewinding the clip as requested by Chen Manjin. When the video replayed, Chen Manjin confidently pointed at the screen, her voice growing louder, filled with unwavering certainty. "It's him. It's definitely him. He's the killer." The person Chen Manjin referred to was Mo Junxian, the ex-boyfriend of her older sister, Chen Mani. They had broken up a long time ago, but Mo Junxian's presence at the apartment raised many questions. Chen Manjin's statement opened up a new direction for the investigation, helping the police gradually piece together the events between Mo Junxian and Chen Manyi. Despite being sisters, their lives were completely different. Chen Manyi, with her gentle and intelligent demeanor, was admitted to the Chinese University of Hong Kong and later became a flight attendant. In contrast, Chen Manjin did not pursue higher education and worked at a bar. The younger sister always felt her life wasn't as prestigious as her older sisters, but the bond between them remained strong. As a result, Chen Manyi often went to the bar to pick up her younger sister after her late shifts. It was at this bar that Chen Manyi met Mo Junxian and began dating him. He came from an upper-class family whose parents were wealthy thanks to investments in the transportation industry. However, the wealth and indulgence he received from his family did not lead to Mo Junxian's success in life. Instead, he became a hedonist, disinterested in education, and lacked clear goals in life. Mo Junxian, due to his poor academic performance, was unable to enter university. Relying on his parents' money, he only took low-paying jobs, living a leisurely life and spending money carelessly. Mo Junxian's greatest pleasure was hanging out at bars with his friends. One of the bars Chen Manjin worked at was a place he frequently visited. It was there that he met Chen Manyi, the woman who changed his life and brought their relationship to a tragic end. Chen Manyi possessed an exquisite beauty, with a delicate face and perfect figure, which quickly caught Mo Junxian's attention. Enchanted by her alluring appearance, Mo Junxian began an intense pursuit, determined to win Chen Manyi's heart. At first, under the persistent advances of Mo Junxian, Chen Manyi gradually softened. Mo Junxian's family was not only wealthy, but also incredibly generous, which made it hard for many young women to resist someone like him. Chen Manyi was no exception, and she soon fell for Mo Junxian, charmed by his gallant and pampering ways. In the early months of their relationship, Chen Manyi and Mo Junxian experienced a sweet and dreamy time together. Those around couldn't help but envy Chen Manyi, as she seemed to have found a charming prince, a man who was both wealthy and doted on her. Chen Manyi herself believed she had met the true love of her life. In her joy, she did not hesitate to introduce Mo Junxian to her family, and the two began discussing the future, even mentioning marriage. However, that sweetness did not last long. Gradually, cracks in the relationship began to surface as Mo Junxian's true nature was revealed. Although he appeared to be a caring and faithful man in front of Chen Manyi, in reality, he was nothing more than a philanderer. Not only did he secretly have affairs with other women, but he also frequently sought out relationships online, even suspecting Chen Manyi of cheating on him. Mo Junxian's unfounded suspicions left Chen Manyi feeling exhausted and stressed. She could no longer tolerate a boyfriend who was both unfaithful and distrustful. After enduring for some time, they finally decided to break up. However, Mo Junxian skillfully convinced her with sweet words to get back together. Their relationship resumed but didn't last long. As a horrific event occurred, Mo Junxian began to exhibit violent behavior. Mo Junxian's financial issues were also a major factor that caused their relationship to deteriorate. Due to his lazy nature and unwillingness to strive, Mo Junxian's parents decided to tighten financial control in order to force him to become more responsible. Mo Junxian, who was accustomed to a luxurious life, suddenly found himself in a situation where he no longer had money to spend. Instead of working hard to improve his life, his first thought was to borrow money from his girlfriend, Chen Manyi. Although Chen Manyi had a stable job with a decent income, most of the money she earned had to be used to support her family. Therefore, when Mo Junxian asked to borrow money, she could only help him a few times. However, as the borrowing became more frequent, Chen Manyi started to doubt Mo Junxian's true intentions with the money. When she could no longer meet Mo Junxian's financial demands, she had to face his wrath. During a heated argument, Mo Junxian lost control and attempted to strangle Chen Manyi with the intent to kill her. Terrified, Chen Manyi struggled free from Mo Junxian's violent grip and escaped. From that moment on, Chen Manyi woke up to the reality. She saw through Mo Junxian's true nature and realized that this relationship could no longer continue. With determination, she cut off all contact and ended her relationship with Mo Junxian, never looking back. No one could have predicted that just 3 months later, Chen Manyi would be murdered by Mo Junxian himself. Although the identity of Mo Junxian's killer has yet to be determined by the police, to Chen Manjin, she was certain he was the culprit. Tears streaming down her face, Chen Manjin sobbed, "It's all my fault. If I hadn't worked at that bar, my sister would have never met Mo Junxian. I ruined her life." The police began their investigation, and according to documents from the Hong Kong Immigration Department, on December 4th, 2013, the time of the incident, Mo Junxian had quickly fled Hong Kong and escaped to Shenzhen. This led the police to believe that Mo Junxian had fled after committing the crime. Although Hong Kong police conducted extensive searches, Mo Junxian seemed to have vanished into thin air. In an effort to swiftly catch the murderer, the Hong Kong police offered a reward of 300,000 Hong Kong dollars for any information leading to his capture. However, despite the large reward, all leads came to a dead end. Mo Junxian remained elusive. As time passed, the case gradually faded from memory, until 3 years later, in October 2016, an unexpected call from an elderly man in Shenzhen brought the case to light. In a trembling voice, the old man revealed that his son-in-law was none other than Mo Junxian, the man who had been on the run for 3 years after committing murder. He provided full information on Mo Junxian's whereabouts. On October 29th, Shenzhen police surrounded a hair salon where Mo Junxian's wife was working. When a familiar figure appeared, the police immediately ordered action. Mo Junxian, completely caught off guard, was thrown to the ground. When he turned and saw the police uniforms, his face instantly showed signs of despair and defeat. On February 1st, 2017, Mo Junxian was extradited to Hong Kong. There, after hours of intense interrogation, he finally confessed to all of his crimes. On December 4th, 2013, Mo Junxian decided to try to rekindle his relationship with Chen Mani. In reality, at that time, Chen Mani had already moved on with a new boyfriend and had healed from the emotional scars of her broken relationship with Mo Junxian. She no longer had any feelings for him. However, Mo Junxian was unwilling to give up. His obsession and selfish pride drove him to visit Chen Mani's family, hoping for one more chance. As Mo Junxian entered the building where Chen Mani's family lived, he felt a mix of both nervousness and determination rising within him. He believed that somehow he could convince Chen Mani to return to him once more. When Chen Mani opened the door, the surprise and discomfort were evident on her face. Before she could say anything, Mo Junxian rushed into the house and slammed the door shut. Her eyes became vigilant, but she still maintained a calm demeanor, hoping to keep her distance from him. When Mo Junxian pleaded for reconciliation, Chen Mani refused without hesitation. Her decisive rejection was like a knife stabbing into Mo Junxian's pride, making him feel humiliated and unbearable. He grew furious, his anger erupting uncontrollably. The argument between the two intensified fiercely. In a blind rage, Mo Junxian found the silk scarf on Chen Mani's flight attendant uniform and used it to cruelly end her life. As Chen Mani lay motionless on the floor, Mo Junxian stood there, looking at her lifeless body, feeling a terrifying sense of pleasure. From a young age, he had always lived in a well-provided environment, pampered and able to get anything he wanted. This pampering had shaped his selfish and ruthless personality. He couldn't accept that something he desired would fall into someone else's hands. After killing Chen Mani, Mo Junxian felt no remorse. He justified his actions by reasoning that he couldn't allow anyone to have what he couldn't possess. Immediately after committing the crime, he fled to Shenzhen, filled with anxiety and fear. He decided to return to Hong Kong, but ultimately lacked the courage to face the truth. So he continued to hide. For 3 years on the run, Mo Junxian lived under a false name in Shenzhen and built a new life with another woman. They even had a child together. But fate cannot be avoided forever. When he was captured and brought back to Hong Kong, Mo Junxian had to face the court and the law. Mo Junxian was charged with premeditated murder and was eventually sentenced to life imprisonment, a sentence that many agreed was just. Although the perpetrator was punished, the beautiful and blossoming life of Chen Mani could never be restored. In 1996, the Kakmakrum family was desperately searching for their missing daughter, Tanya Nicole, 14 years old. Despite the assistance of dozens of Pennsylvania state police officers and hundreds of volunteers, there was still no news of the unfortunate girl. Time kept passing, and just when the flame of hope seemed to have been extinguished, Tanya Nicole was unexpectedly found at the home of a former security guard from the middle school she had attended. At the same time, many dark secrets were brought to light. So what did Tanya Nicole go through during the 10 years she was missing? Why didn't she appear even once despite all the efforts of her family and the police? Don't leave the screen because you don't know what unexpected truth awaits you. The story takes place in McKeesport, Allegheny County in the state of Pennsylvania, known as the Cradle of American History. This is also where Tanya Nicole Catchmacrum was born and raised. Tanya Nicole was born on October 14, 1981, 14-year-old 8th grader at Cornell Middle School in McKeesport, Pennsylvania. The little girl had a less than joyful childhood, as in February 1996, Tanya's life was suddenly turned upside down by a series of changes. Tanya's mother discovered that her father had a mistress, which wasn't hard to understand, given that her father was known as the most charming and flirtatious man in McKeesport. He rarely spent time with the family, instead attending all-night parties and flirting with beautiful young women. Fed up with her unfaithful husband, Tanya's mother decided to divorce and start searching for the new life she had always dreamed of. Tanya continued to live with her father, Jerry Catch, in McKeesport after her parents' divorce. McKeesport is a small town without many opportunities for development, but Jerry did his best to provide his daughter with a stable life, at least in material terms. However, things didn't go smoothly when Jerry decided to marry Joanne Koch, the woman he had been having an affair with while still living with his ex-wife. This decision marked a significant turning point in Tanya's life. Soon after the marriage, Joanne moved in with Tanya and her father. Despite being new to the family, Joanne quickly assumed the role of Tanya's primary caregiver. As the stepmother, Joanne replaced Tanya's biological mother in many aspects, from daily care to education. However, the relationship between the two did not go as smoothly as expected. At this time, Tanya had just entered the early stages of puberty, a crucial period in the formation of personality and psychological development. Her parents' divorce caused a significant psychological shock for the young girl, particularly having to transfer to a new school environment with new friends created considerable pressure on Tanya. This 14-year-old girl began to feel as though she was standing between two entirely different worlds. The world of a child still searching for stability and security, and the world of a teenager facing the challenges of adolescence. The continuous family upheavals not only affected her emotions, but also forced Tanya to confront psychological challenges and difficulties. Her mood became increasingly unstable and vulnerable. During this period, such sudden changes could have a profound impact on Tanya's psychology and behavior, leading to unforeseeable issues in the future. Tanya Nicole Koch's life was disrupted not only by the family turmoil, but also by the tense relationship with her stepmother, Joanne. Although Joanne tried to become the primary caregiver for the girl, Tanya always felt isolated in the very house where she should have felt safe and loved. Tanya shared that she often felt abandoned and inadequately cared for in her new family. This loneliness caused her to withdraw more and more, creating a significant distance between her and those around her. Close relatives later revealed that even Tanya's biological mother had mistreated and abused her multiple times. Her mother had taken out all her anger over her husband's infidelity on the young girl, simply because Tanya bore too much resemblance to her father. Tanya could not get along with her future stepmother, but she had no other choice because her biological mother was also violent, often behaving cruelly and rarely communicating or taking care of her daughter. Conflicts and disputes within the family, along with the lack of affection and attention, gradually pushed Tanya into a state of isolation and alienation from everyone. Tanya gradually closed herself off, becoming sullen, quiet, and almost unwilling to communicate with anyone. At school, her classmates often looked at her with disdainful eyes, treating her as a freak and an outcast. It didn't stop there. Tanya also frequently became the target of malicious jokes, being bullied both mentally and physically. Mocking and ridicule from her peers made her feel even more ashamed and lonely, gradually retreating into her own shell. Unable to find anyone to share, confide in, or empathize with, Tanya fell into a state of hopelessness, feeling as though she was isolated in her own world. The young girl became easily influenced by negative impacts from those around her. A group of bad friends took advantage of Tanya's vulnerability, luring her into using stimulants like alcohol, cigarettes, and even marijuana. At first, Tanya only tried them out of curiosity and a desire to escape from negative thoughts. Gradually, she became dependent on these substances to forget the pain and the harsh reality she was facing. The times she used stimulants sent Tanya into a hallucinatory state where she could temporarily forget what was happening in her real life. She found temporary solace in daydreams, knowing that it couldn't last forever. During this time, Tanya began to have more contact with Thomas Hull, a 38-year-old man who worked as a security guard at the school. Thomas was the first person in a long time to show concern and listen to her. One day, Thomas happened to catch Tanya trying to steal something from a classmate's backpack. It was a spontaneous act, driven by the deprivation and hurt Tanya was enduring. However, instead of reporting her to the school, Thomas chose to remain silent, not reporting the incident. This very action made Tanya feel that he was someone she could trust. Tanya started to see Thomas as a companion, someone she didn't expect. He frequently bought cigarettes and candy for Tanya, but more importantly, he was someone who listened, understood, and shared with her the deep feelings she kept inside. The relationship between Tanya and Thomas gradually became closer. Despite the age gap and the potential dangers it brought, Thomas began to control Tanya's mind with lies, such as claiming that he was the only one who cared about and loved her in this life. He also regularly gave her money to buy cigarettes and other items, making Tanya increasingly dependent on him. Not only that, Thomas also often gave Tanya small gifts, such as cigarettes and jewelry, making her feel loved and cared for. This relationship lasted for about 4 months, during which time Tanya often skipped school, but did not encounter any trouble. It can be seen that the fluctuations in family life and the lack of affection made Tanya vulnerable and fell into the temptations of adolescence. She not only had to face the challenges of adolescence, but also got caught up in a toxic relationship with someone much older than her, leading to unpredictable consequences in the future. The relationship between Tanya and Thomas did not stop at the level of simple affection, but became much darker and more complicated. One day, while the two were standing on the school stairs, Thomas suddenly approached and placed a kiss on Tanya's lips. This was not just an ordinary kiss, the beginning of Tanya's fall into a dangerous relationship. That kiss, which took place in a seemingly innocent space, marked a tragic turning point in Tanya's life, pushing the young girl into an abyss from which she could hardly escape. After that kiss, Thomas began to carry out his plan to isolate Tanya from her family and friends. He gradually planted negative thoughts about her current life in Tanya's mind, often telling her, "I can give you a better life. You don't deserve what's happening at home, and your friends don't care about you." Thomas's words penetrated Tanya's young mind, causing her to increasingly distance herself from everyone around her and sink into the illusion that Thomas was the only one who could bring her happiness. Tanya, with a wounded heart and full of pain, gradually got swept into the emotional whirlwind with Thomas. She believed that she had truly fallen in love with him, especially when she recalled the moment they shared their first kiss. To Tanya, that kiss was not just a romantic gesture, but also a confirmation of the relationship she thought was true love. Seeing Tanya falling into despair, unable to find a way out in life, Thomas took advantage of her weakness and vulnerability to propose that they run away together. With sweet and promising words, Thomas convinced Tanya that leaving her family and running away was the only way for her to escape all the pressure and suffering. In her blindness and despair, Tanya naively believed that Thomas was the only ray of hope in her deadlocked life. She didn't hesitate to agree immediately when Thomas suggested she leave everything behind to start a new life with him. In the next 2 or 3 days, Thomas helped Tanya plan the escape perfectly. He instructed her on every detail, from preparing clothes to how to leave the house without being noticed. On February 10, 1996, Tanya maintained a normal appearance, pretending that everything was fine. She went to school and came back on time as usual, even having a final dinner with her family without revealing any sign. After dinner, she quietly returned to her room, carefully prepared a few sets of clothes, and stuffed them into a small backpack. As night fell and everyone in the house was sound asleep, Tanya stealthily opened the back door and left the house without making a sound. Thomas was waiting for her outside the house, just as planned. Thinking she was about to escape from her painful life, Anya got into Thomas's car, and they sped off into the dark night. After about 20 minutes of driving, Anya arrived at Thomas's house, where her life would change forever. He lived in a small 2-story house with his parents and a younger brother, who was only 2 years younger than Tanya. The house, though small, was cozy, located in a quiet neighborhood, just a few miles from Tanya's home. Because the distance wasn't too far, Thomas had discussed with Tanya that, to avoid drawing attention from neighbors and acquaintances, he would arrange for her to stay on the second floor of the house and minimize contact with family members. Thomas's parents were elderly, lived quite separately, and didn't pay much attention to their son's private life. They always thought that Thomas was just living a normal and peaceful life, completely unaware that a young girl was secretly living under the same roof with them. In the early days, Tanya obediently followed Thomas's instructions. She spent most of her time in the cramped attic, not going outside, and entertained herself by reading books, listening to music, occasionally gazing at the sky through the only small window. Though the attic room was small, lacked light, and was not airy, Tanya tried to endure it, thinking that this was just a short phase in the plan she trusted. However, the confinement and the feeling of being imprisoned gradually made Tanya exhausted and suffocated. The small, cramped room became increasingly stifling, making her feel as if she were trapped in a sealed box. She began to ask Thomas if she could go outside at least once to breathe some fresh air. Thomas always refused, saying it was too dangerous. He only brought her leftovers from his meals and taught her to move as quietly as possible, to avoid making any noise that might reveal her presence to his parents. The living conditions were so terrible. Tanya was forced to use a bucket instead of a toilet. She was only allowed to leave the room once or twice a week, take a shower. And even that only happened when Thomas's parents were deeply asleep. Gradually, Tanya realized that something was very wrong. This was not the free life she had once dreamed of. The illusions of a new life began to shatter, and Tanya started to take stronger actions to reclaim her freedom. When Thomas's sweet promises and persuasive words no longer worked, he began to show his true nature, a kidnapper willing to use any means necessary to satisfy his twisted desires and need for control. During that time, Tom abused the young girl every day. Tanya, an unfortunate victim, had to endure 4 years of imprisonment in a living hell created by Tom. Brutal man. This place not only imprisoned Tanya's body but also her spirit, driving her to despair, to the point where she lost all hope in the future. From the very beginning, Tom planted bitter and deceitful words into Tanya's mind. He constantly affirmed that no one wanted or cared about her, making Tanya feel worthless and reliant only on him. The fear escalated when Tom threatened to harm Tanya and her family if she dared to attempt an escape. Moreover, whenever she tried, that was when he threatened her life, saying he would take her life while she slept, put her in a trash bag, and throw her into the river. I quickly became terrified of him. Tanya later shared, choking back tears. Tears streamed down constantly, and I just obeyed his every command. For 4 years, he was the only person I saw, my entire world. To get through the time facing those 4 walls and that man, Tanya shared that there was a TV in the room, and there was also a boombox, and she had headphones. The only thing she did was watch the Regis and Kelly show. She watched it so many times that it's imprinted in her mind now. Regis and Kelly helped her a lot during that hellish journey. They made her laugh, and that meant a lot to her. While Tanya was enduring this torment and not thinking about the day she could escape from this man, outside of that house, police had listed Tanya Koch as a missing person. Her father had no idea that his lost child was being held captive just 2 miles away. Tanya Koch turned 18 with hopes of a new life, but what awaited her was the mental imprisonment by Tom Hull. Tom, who had manipulated Tanya for a long time, believed that he had completely controlled her mind. To conceal his wrongdoing, Tom introduced Tanya to his family and friends as Nikki Allen, the girlfriend who lived with him. Due to fear and manipulation, Tanya was forced to play this role to cover up the dark truth about her life. However, Tom still allowed Tanya to leave the house occasionally, but with strict limitations. The door to freedom was barely ajar when Tanya was permitted to go to church or a local fast food restaurant. These were the few opportunities for Tanya to connect with the outside world. nurturing her hope of one day escaping Tom's grip. Tanya said that to maintain her sanity and resist Tom's manipulation, she prayed a lot during those years, never losing her faith. In fact, her faith grew stronger during those 10 years. Tanya Koch's confined life seemed to have no way out. However, a glimmer of hope appeared when she befriended the owners of a local restaurant. This friendship ignited in Tanya a desire for freedom, pushing her to take bold actions to escape captivity. Tanya's thoughts when she was allowed outside were shared on television, where she said, "It was terrifying, but it felt amazing to be outside and breathe fresh air. That part made me feel really good. But it was scary because I was like a deer in the headlights of the world. I hadn't been outside in 4 years." Tanya's emotions upon being freed were a chaotic mix. On one hand, she felt extreme joy at escaping the dark captivity. On the other hand, the sudden freedom was overwhelming, leaving her anxious and scared. After years of mental captivity, Tanya Koch was finally allowed to go outside by Tom Hole for the first time. However, this freedom came with restrictions and tight control. Tanya recalled, "What was on my mind was to do what he told me to do when I was outside, and then I had to return to him. The first time he let me out, he told me which bus to take back home, and exactly where to walk. He trusted me to go out because he knew I had been brainwashed." The reason Tom Hole allowed Tanya to go out for the first time was that his parents were going away. He needed Tanya to buy new clothes to conceal her captivity. Tanya had been wearing Tom's and his son's old clothes, and Tom wanted her to wear more feminine outfits to make a good impression on his parents. This brief freedom for Tanya was a significant turning point in her story. It showed that Tom Hole was gradually loosening his control over Tanya, possibly due to his growing confidence in his ability to manipulate her mind. However, for Tanya, this was a precious opportunity to connect with the outside world, even if only for a short time. It sparked in her a small hope of one day escaping captivity and starting a new life. Tom didn't agree to let Tanya work part-time, but she did it behind his back. During the times when Tanya worked, and he thought she was wandering somewhere else, Tanya quickly befriended the couple who owned the restaurant, and they treated her like their own daughter. Their care and kindness rekindled in Tanya a belief in humanity and a desire to live a normal life. On March 21, 2006, a pivotal moment occurred. With extraordinary courage, Tanya Koch revealed her true identity to Joe Sparico, the owner of the deli. Through trembling tears, Tanya's voice broke. "You go to a website for missing children, you will see my picture." In the final 10 months of her decades-long ordeal, Tom had allowed her to visit JJ's Deli Mart, where she became friends with the owner, Joe Sparico. Aware of Tom's age and his deep control over her, Joe sensed something was wrong. He contacted the authorities after she revealed her true identity to him. Overwhelmed with emotion, a few hours later, police arrived at Tom's residence and rescued Tanya after confirming her identity. Upon reaching the police station, she was handed over to her father. After years of living in darkness and mental captivity, Tanya Koch finally found the light of freedom, age 24. Thanks to Joe Sparico's bravery, the deli owner, and the coordination of the police, Tanya was freed from the clutches of Tom Hole, who had held her captive for 10 years. The kind-hearted couple, the deli owners, played a crucial role in Tanya's rescue. They not only believed Tanya's story, but also contacted their son, a retired police officer who was familiar with Tanya's missing person case. With police involvement, Tom Hole, then 48 years old, was swiftly arrested. The manipulator's grip finally crumbled, turning freedom to Tanya after a decade of suffering and darkness. In 2007, Tom Hole faced severe sentencing for a series of crimes related to child sexual abuse. This string of crimes shocked the community, outraged many. Tom Hole admitted to statutory sexual assault, involuntary deviant sexual intercourse, indecent assault, endangering the welfare of children, corruption of minors, interference with custody of children, and aggravated assault causing severe physical and mental harm to minors. These acts demonstrated the severity and danger Tom Hole posed to his victims. Although the full details of Tom Hole's crimes were not fully disclosed, the heavy sentence reflected the grave nature of these actions. Tom Hole's admission of guilt was also a crucial step in shedding light on the case and delivering justice to the victim. Tom's court hearing drew public attention due to its complex and conflicting details. On one hand, Tom claimed that he had helped Tanya, a child who had issues with her family and needed assistance. According to Tom's testimony, Tanya frequently expressed gratitude for his help, even stating that, thanks to Tom, she didn't have to die or live on the streets. Although Tom still apologized for the way he treated Tanya, stating that only God knows how much he regretted his actions. Tom Hole was sentenced to 15 years in prison, later released in 2022, and registered as a sex offender. Thank you for watching the entire video. If you enjoyed it, please press the like button to support our channel. Now goodbye, and see you in the next thrilling stories.